Leaders from the UK, France, Germany, and Poland on a joint visit to Ukraine's Kyiv have issued an ultimatum to Russian President Vladimir Putin to sign up to an unconditional ceasefire by Monday, May 12th. Failure to abide will result in Russia facing increased sanctions and weapons transfers to Ukraine. European leaders, together with Volodymyr Zelensky, made a joint phone call to U.S. President Donald Trump prior to making the announcement. It was the first time the leaders of the 4 European nations made a joint visit to Ukraine. "We are clear the bloodshed must end. Russia must stop its illegal invasion," the leaders said in a joint statement.
We have just now, following the meeting of the coalition of volunteers, had a discussion with President Trump, both to report to him on this work, to thank him for the initiative he took several months ago and initiated.
So he is requesting a halt to arms deliveries during this ceasefire. Is that a concession you would consider?
And in fact, we brought this up just afterwards with President Trump to say that the ceasefire must be unconditional because the party under attack accepted the ceasefire unconditionally. And because, as you may have noticed, Russia also has massive military support from several partners who were even thanked during the May 9th celebrations. And so anything that would disrupt the process by adding conditions is, in a way, just a delaying tactic to avoid seeking peace. This week, Kit Kellogg brought up a new idea for a potential peace agreement. In particular, it concerns the deterioration of living conditions. That's where we need to start. We want peace. We want the peace, which we hope will begin as soon as Monday with the ceasefire, to lead to a lasting peace treaty. And so we want this peace treaty to include security guarantees that will deter any future aggression. So it's the credibility of these security guarantees that is key. That's what we need to build.
Michael Fischer, Deutsche Presseagentur. President Zelensky, Germany has a new chancellor. Friedrich Merz is...
Today, Mr. President, dear Volodymyr, we are not simply here to continue along the path of commemorations, but to affirm on this 10th of May that we are fully committed at your side, to remind the Ukrainian people that we will never abandon them and to fight for peace.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov was quoted as saying on Friday that Russia supported the implementation of a 30-day ceasefire, but only with due consideration of nuances. The Kremlin accused European countries on Saturday of making contradictory and confrontational statements, Interfax news agency reported, after European leaders backed a U.S. plan for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine and threatened Russia with massive sanctions if it failed to comply. We hear many contradictory statements from Europe. They are generally confrontational in nature rather than aimed at trying to revive our relations. Nothing more. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov was quoted as saying. In an earlier interview with ABC News, Peskov said Russia would require a halt to U.S. and European arms supplies to Ukraine during any potential ceasefire. Otherwise, it will be an advantage for Ukraine. Ukraine will continue their total mobilization, bringing new troops to the front line, Peskov said. Keir Starmer has said there is absolute unity among countries around the world on Ukraine. Speaking from Kyiv on Saturday, the Prime Minister was asked if he believed Vladimir Putin wanted peace and why he thought the threat of sanctions would work. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Saturday backed a proposed unconditional 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine and said that the EU is ready to impose further biting sanctions on Russia in the event of a breach of a ceasefire. The ball is now in Russia's court. We stand ready to maintain strong pressure on Russia, said von der Leyen. NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte said on Saturday, after joining a coalition of the willing call with Kyiv's partners, that it was clear the group is committed and continues to stand with Ukraine. Russia's defense ministry said on Saturday that Ukrainian forces had made 4 more attempts in the past 24 hours to break across the border into Russia's Kursk and Belgorod regions. Ukraine says Russia has continued to attack it and has called the ceasefire a farce. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said North Korea's involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war was justified, calling it an exercise of sovereign rights in defense of a brother nation, state media KCNA reported on May 9th.
Ukraine.